Hi, welcome to Social Perspective. Today we have so much to discuss in newspaper in social perspective, so let's begin. The first article says Twitter defaming India, defying laws, says government. Now this article is regarding new IT rules 2021 framed by the government recently. The new IT rules go with the aim of maintaining social order and social security in the society and curbing hate speech going rounds on social media platforms. The content of the new rules precisely are that it requires social media platforms to comply with the government orders and trace the origin of the messages. It also requires social media platforms to decrypt the messages and look into the content of the message. Now, many social media platforms are against these new rules, like Twitter. They say these are intimidation tactics by the government and they are potential threat to freedom of speech and expression. The main criticisms against these rules are it goes against the principle of colorable legislation because government is trying to achieve what it cannot achieve through the in legitimate means through original legislation. That means government has no powers in IT rules 2020 to look into the social media platforms, but government is trying to achieve that goal through subordinate legislation, that is new IT rules 2021. The second criticism was that it a government is trying to become ultimate adjudicator of objectionable speech online. Government is not supposed to be so, courts are supposed to be so, but through these rules government is trying to be the ultimate adjudicator. It is deciding what is objectionable content and what is not. It is flagging by its own for traceability and decryption. Hence this is a second criticism. The next criticism goes like it is against the right to privacy because of decryption of content of the messages online. It breaches the privacy of the individuals or users of social media platforms. The next one, government is trying to eliminate fake news without actually defining what fake news is. This gives government arbitrary powers to sweep in against the public and users. The final criticism is that it increases operational costs for social media platforms. That means social media platforms need to set up Indian resident nodal officers, Indian resident grievance officers, and Indian resident compliant officers to comply with these rules. These all increase the operational cost for social media platforms. Now, because of these criticisms, government is going against or going beyond its powers. Now, if we analyze these rules in view of in sociological perspective, in view of Max Weber almost eulogized bureaucracy, whether political bureaucracy or administrative bureaucracy. He feels bureaucracy, he talks bureaucracy as if it is a panacea to all the problems. That is why there are criticisms against Max Weber's bureaucracy. R.K.Merton says bureaucracy is not only functional, it is also dysfunctional. It inhibits realization of organizational goals. Now, what are organizational goals behind these rules? To provide social safety and security and also to curb hate speech. But instead of providing safety and security to the people, they are contrary to those aims and providing insecurity to the people because we as a users don't know what content of our message will be flagged by the government for traceability and will be flagged by the government for decryption. Hence we feel insecure. It also goes against curbing hate speech because uh, we don't know what our speech will be curbed as hate speech because it is not at all defined. So instead of curbing hate speech, it inhibits our freedom to express freely. It inhibits our freedom of speech and expression. So that way it inhibits realization of organizational goals, as R.K. Merton has opined. And the next criticism goes like this: Milovan Dijilas says it is exploitative nature of bureaucratic control will be showed through these acts. Certainly bureaucratic control is exploiting is showing its powers in exploitative nature in this manner, as we have discussed all the criticisms. Hence uh, we can say government in framing new IT rules uh, has drawn wide criticism, and Max Weber's bureaucracy's criticism is significant in this move. The next article says India in touch with Dominica on Chokshis repatriation. Now, Mr. Choksi, Mehul Choksi, is wanted for defrauding banks in India. He defrauded, along with his nephew Nirav Modi, Punjab National Bank and State Bank of India of more than $1 billion. Now, if we study in sociological perspective, this is the deviance. R.K. Merton's Conformity and Deviance explain this social act. Now, R.K.Merton says there are five possible responses for state enemy. One being conformity. To study R.K.Merton's conformity and deviance, we have to realize what are cultural goals and what are institutional means. Now, for Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi, cultural goals are to gain profits, to make money. There are institutional means for that. That means to gain profits and to make money by doing business in legitimate manner, paying all the taxes, repaying debts of banks, repaying interest, and making money. These are institutional means. Instead of that, they may choose to uh, go with another means, and they may choose to deviate from the institutional means. Now, R.K. Martin explains those five possible responses. First one is conformity. That means people conform to the cultural goals and institutional means as such, and they try to reach those cultural goals in institutional means. Second one is innovative. Now, people realizing that their institutional means will not take them to their cultural goals, they try to innovate new means to make profits. That means new means to reach their cultural goals. Now, these Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi can be brought under this category by saying they innovated new means to make profits by defrauding banks and escaping to foreign countries, because that would give them impunity from punishment in by Indian government. Third one, if you say ritualism, these persons realize that they cannot reach their cultural goals in institutional means, but they prefer to adhere to institutional means, giving up their cultural goals. Fourth one is retreatism. They know that they cannot reach their cultural goals within institutional means, hence they abandon both the cultural goals and institutional means and retreat from society. Fifth one is rebellion. They are not satisfied with the whole concept of cultural goals, and they see society in the perspective of new goals, and they try to establish new social order. But here we can categorize Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi under innovative response given by R.K. Merton. Now, R.K. Martin says there are these responses, but fails to explain why only some individuals, why only that particular individual try to deviate in that particular manner. That is given by another sociologist, a further sociologist like Cloward and Ohlin. He says criminal subculture may be the reason for such deviance. Now, if you see both Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi are relatives to each other, that means this criminal subculture is within their family or within their relationships. So, Cloward and Ohlin opined, this criminal subculture might be the possible reason for such deviance. Now, Walter Miller says because of thrill, they choose to deviate. This may not be the reason in this case of Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi. David Matza says mood fatalism. Some persons feel that all other persons are deviating and gaining profits or or reaching their cultural goals. Why only I should adhere to the institutional means? Why shouldn't I deviate from means and gain profits as like everyone else is doing? David Matza says this might be the possible reason. Now, in this particular case also, this might be the possible reason, because bank frauds in India are not new. We have known many such cases, and we have seen many instances. Hence, this mood fatalism might be the reason for Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi to deviate from institutional means. Albert Cohen says frustration. This again is may not be the possible reason in this case. Howard Becker says labeling theory, because some persons may be labeled as criminals or some persons may be labeled as deviants from institutional means, and as they are already labeled, they choose to deviate from the institutional means as they were labeled. This may be the possible reason or maybe not, we don't know. Edwin and Lemart further classifies this theory as primary and secondary labeling. Primary and secondary deviance, sorry. Primary deviance is that deviance before the labeling has happened, and secondary deviance is that deviance after the labeling has happened. Now, Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi might have deviated from the institutional means even before they are flagged as fraudsters. But whatever that deviance has happened before being labeled as fraudsters is primary deviance, and whatever that is happened after the labeling, that means going to foreign countries, fleeing to foreign countries and seeking refuge there, is secondary deviance, because it has happened after the labeling has done. Bernard Lander says social disorganization. Because there is no proper organization in the society, they may choose to deviate from institutional means. Now, all this might be the possible reasons for the social action or the deviance shown by Mehul Choksi and Nirav Modi. That is what we can analyze from sociological perspective with the help of R.K. Merton. Here again, there is another article saying Special Enforcement Bureau keen on keeping youth away from narcotics. And now, getting addicted to narcotics is again a deviance, as we have discussed in R.K.Merton's perspective. But in order to curb this deviance, we need to go to the roots and understand why this deviance is happening. We need to analyze why this may be criminal subculture, because their family, their friends, their relatives may be addicted to drugs and narcotics. That might be the possible reason. Walter Miller says thrill. So yes, thrill may also be the possible reason for youth getting addicted to drugs and narcotics. David Matza says mood fatalism. That means as everyone else is getting addicted to drugs, and as no one else is seeing any possible fallout from the addiction, why should I be restrained from addiction? This might be the possible reason. Albert Cohen again says frustration. Now youth may be frustrated because of excessive social norms, because of excessive burden of studies, of responsibilities. Hence they may choose to get addicted to drugs and narcotics. This also might be the possible reason. Labeling theory may also might have happened. They may be labeled as brats. They may be labeled as corrupted kids or polluted kids. Hence that labeling theory also might have helped for them to deviate from the possible institutional means and getting addicted to drugs and narcotics. Social disorganization may also be the possible reason. So to act against this addiction to narcotics and liquor, we need to know why that addiction to narcotics and liquor has happened in the first place, and in that perspective or in that manner, we need to act to bring social control and to bring social change again. If it is thrill, we need to make them understand that it is not thrill, it is more of a possible danger than thrill. If it is criminal subculture, we need to influence not just the person getting addicted to drugs. We need to act upon whole community. That means his family or relatives or friends. We need to try to influence all of them. If it is mood fatalism, we need to understand that not everything you are seeing is bright. Them uh, Whoever the persons you are thinking are enjoying, or not getting any negative consequences from addiction, they may get negative consequences tomorrow or day after tomorrow. We need to make them understand like that. Now Albert Cohen says it is due to frustration. Now we need to tell the youth that this is not the only way to escape from frustration. There are other means like practicing yoga, meditation, which are better means and which have absolutely no negative consequences. This labeling theory, we need to stop labeling them as brats, and we need to give them some possible or progressive names, some ray of hope to them. We need to label them as someone who has risen out of all the negatives and all the arts, and who are ready to see the light of the day. Social disorganization, if we think is the reason for addiction, we need to work on social organization again. We need to socialize them, we need to remember them social values and morals, and we need to have some sort of social regulation upon them. In that way, through sociological perspective, we can act against this addiction to drugs and narcotics in the society. Moving on, we have another article saying government studying lockdown impact on traditional occupations. Now, without going into the content of the article, if we get stuck at lockdown impact, we may analyze this lockdown impact in sociological perspective with the help of R.K. Merton. R.K. Merton's manifest and latent functions explain this event. Now, if we say a lockdown as a function, R.K. Merton feels it as a function it as functional to the society, because manifest function, what is intended function of lockdown is to contain the spread of virus. But as a consequence, what we have seen as latent functions of lockdown is that one is loss of livelihoods. Many livelihoods have lost. Another one is panic buying. Lockdowns have impacted in panic buying or conspicuous consumption. Another one is shadow pandemic. We have seen shadow pandemic because of lockdown, and another one is black marketing of drugs and vaccines. This also we have seen. But R.K. Martin feels all these are functional to the society. Despite these negative fallouts, lockdown is functional to the society, because in explaining loss of livelihoods, he says because of loss of livelihoods, people are trying to innovate new means for livelihood. They are trying to innovate new means for earning profits or making money. Hence, what is irrational in the sense of loss of livelihoods? Lockdowns may seem irrational for us because if we analyze the impact of lockdowns in the first wave, it has been proved that lockdown had little impact in containing the spread of the virus. In contrary, it has many negative fallouts like loss of livelihoods, migrant crisis, etc. What all we have discussed. Hence, lockdown may seem irrational for us to irrational to us in the first instance. But R.K.Merton says because of loss of livelihoods, people are trying to innovate new means of livelihood. Hence, what is irrational has become rational in this perspective, in this context. That's why lockdown is functional, he says. And next one, panic buying or conspicuous consumption. We have this Veblen's theory of leisure class here. That means we are enhancing social knowledge. We are trying to analyze how society behaves in times of crisis. Hence, we have enhanced social knowledge. That's why this lockdown has been functional, says R.K. Merton. And in regard to shadow pandemic, this lockdown has opened new vistas for research. That means, does proximity between male and females in a family give rise to shadow pandemic or give rise to sexual harassment or physical harassment or emotional harassment of women? Or does frustration meted out to males in not allowing them to going out, in not allowing them to go out, leads to this harassment of women? Like that, we have opened new vistas for research in sociology. That's why R.K. Merton says this lockdown is functional to the society. And another one, black marketing or political machine. Because of black marketing, hitherto relegated sections of the population or those who have lost opportunity for livelihood are now gaining opportunities for livelihood. That means because of black marketing, they are making money, and they are coming on par with others in the society. Hence, they have this black marketing is like giving opportunities for deprived. That's why lockdown is functional to the society, says R.K. Martin. Because of this reason, R.K. Martin's manifest and latent functions has been criticized. He has been criticized because it lacks rationality. R.K. Martin failed to understand what is rational and what is rational and what is irrational. He fails to draw a line between functionality and dysfunctionality. He fails to understand what is functional to the society and what is dysfunctional to the society. Now, if we see through rational lens, this loss of livelihoods, panic buying, shadow pandemic, black marketing, all these are dysfunctions to the society. But R.K. Merton fails to regard this as dysfunctions and tries to consider even this as functional to the society, and hence tried to substantiate or support his argument of lockdown as being functional to the society. The second criticism is lack of objectivity and universality. Now, these latent functions or manifest functions are not universal. Lockdowns may not contain the spread of virus everywhere in the society, everywhere in the whole world. They may not lead to loss of livelihoods everywhere. There may be some places where unorganized workers proportion is minimum, and there is social security net to every worker. They may not be panic buying everywhere. There may be code of ethics playing there. There may not be shadow pandemic everywhere. There may be some responsible citizens living there, recognizing the rights of women. There may not be black marketing everywhere because there may be some social organization and strict social control working there to curb black marketing. Hence, R.K. Martin's manifest and latent functions are not universal. Now, this is again a criticism against R.K. Martin's theory. Now, in this article, it says RTC turns buses into mobile hospitals. This is again latent function here. That means RTC buses, we could not expect our institutions to be so innovative in normal times. Now, because of this lockdown, RTC has turned innovative and it has turned its buses into mobile hospitals. That's why a lockdown is functional, says R.K. Merton. Moving on, we have this article saying addressing vaccine hesitancy. Now, we know what is vaccine hesitancy. That means getting hesitant to get vaccinated because of or fear of getting side effects or because of some fake news, etc. And those fears may be irrational, but vaccine hesitancy is real. And to address this vaccine hesitancy through sociological perspective, we need to understand, we need to take a Westerhan approach. Westerhan approach for social action tries to understand social actions at the level of their meanings. This Westerhan approach begins in steps. First step involves direct observational understanding. That means by directly observing and understanding the social action, people are trying to or people are hesitating to get vaccinated. By direct observational understanding, we get to understand that they lack education or they lack proper awareness about vaccination. They are having some negative beliefs about vaccination, and hence they are trying to get vaccinated. Now, this is a first step, but this first step itself is not first step itself is not sufficient to address vaccine hesitancy. There is another step called empathetic liaison. That means we have to get into the shoes of those hesitants, and we need to understand why is such particular hesitants are getting hesitated to get vaccinated. If we understand the situation in their shoes, if we analyze the situations around them, by through their perspective, we can understand why they are hesitating, and we can take some social action. That is exactly what mentioned here. The author says quashing rumors and conspiracies with truth and reliable information alone may not suffice, because they are related to first step only, they are not related to second step. Quashing rumors and fake news is an action in response only to the step one, that is in response only to direct observational understanding, not empathetic liaison. He says, before attempting to persuade people, we need to understand the basis of their fear, hesitancy, and anti-vax attitude. This is what empathetic liaison means. This is what step two in Western approach says. We need to understand why they are hesitating. We need to analyze the situation through their lens, and we need to respond to the to such vaccine hesitancy. Now, this is what we can analyze vaccine hesitancy in sociological perspective. That's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.